Thank you, John, and I want to say thank you to all of you out there. It's a delight to actually be here in Montana. I got to say, this is God's country. It's absolutely beautiful. Let's see. I got invited here. It's unclear exactly why or what role I play in all of this, but I think as things heat up on multiple fronts, everything from real ID to restrictions on our travel, to restrictions on our ability to be employed, to all of the other things that are coming down the pike. And I'm going to put flu to the side for just a moment. I think it's becoming more and more apparent to people that we're like a camp and the Indians have circled the wagons, as they used to say. Or another way of thinking of it is they've put a noose around our necks. And I think it's just a matter of time before the noose gets pulled and we all find ourselves, and it's going to happen overnight. It's not going to be a gradual process. We're going to find ourselves overnight enslaved by the technologies that are being created around us. So one of the things that I've spent the last 10 years of my life doing is trying to alert people. My background in this actually, got sort of two pieces of background that are relevant. I have a doctorate from Harvard University. I'm a researcher. When I get a hold of something, I'm a bulldog. I'm tenacious, and I research and research until I get to the bottom of it. In 2002, I actually discovered that Procter & Gamble, Gillette, Walmart, the Defense Department, the Post Office, Procter & Gamble, Kraft, Nestle, Kimberly-Clark, you name every major corporation, that these guys were all meeting behind closed doors to find a way to replace the barcode with RFID microchips so they could track the public. Now, when I discovered that, I actually crashed a few of their meetings, and this is all detailed in my book Spychips, and I brought 50 copies, so hopefully enough to go around for everybody. But I would be happy to sign those for you. But in my research and in discovering that this was happening, I was really at one time the only person who knew about it. I actually had read a quote by a guy named John Sturmer. He's a market researcher for AC Nielsen. And in that quote, he said that first there came the barcode, which did a really good job telling marketers what people were buying. Then along came the frequent shopper card that they actually used to record who's buying what. So they have an inventory of everything in your house when you scan the frequent shopper card at the supermarket. They said, but there's still some blind spots to what we know. And what we want to know is when, where, and how people use the products that they buy. And there's a new technology on the horizon called, at that time it was called Auto ID for automatic identification, now called RFID. And that technology promises to tell us what people do with products in their own homes. And when I started researching that, I actually discovered that there were plans to put RFID readers in our medicine cabinets, in our refrigerators, in doorways, in museums, in theaters, in libraries, in elevators, in bathrooms, literally every place that people go. And then, not implant, but sort of hide RFID microchips all over us in order to keep track of us. One of the things we discovered in my book, Spychips, or actually the book I co-authored with Liz McIntyre, who is a former federal bank examiner and a brilliant researcher in her own right, we discovered a patent by IBM, which is deeply involved in this up to its neck. Then IBM had patented something that they call the Person Tracking Unit. And I thought that was really a lovely name. They came up with it, we didn't. But it really describes what this thing is. And what it is a series of RFID readers about the size of cell phones. They can be put into doorways, they can be put behind walls, they can be put in refrigerators, they can be put into furniture, they can be put really anywhere. And as you go about your daily life, if they can get you to carry an RFID tag on you, anytime you get within range of one of these RFID readers, it will pick up your signal and it'll make a note in a database as to where you were, who you were with, what direction you were walking, what part of the supermarket you stood in too long. Were you looking at the wine department a little too long, maybe you didn't buy any, maybe they'll send you a coupon next time to encourage you to actually make a purchase. But not only that, they wanted to get this person tracking unit and its tracking ability into the hands of the government, so that the government could use it to keep an eye on quote-unquote suspicious persons. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems like ever since that Homeland Security report came out, and ever since the Patriot Act was written, that patriotic, freedom-loving Americans have started to become suspects. And so we will be the first people that these technologies are used on. Now, let me give you an example. How many of you, when you arrived today to listen to these series of speeches outside of KGEZ, how many of you signed a document or showed an ID to get into this field? I don't see a single hand going up. Anybody? All right. How many of you, look around, how many names of people around you could you actually name? I'm assuming because you're Montana, it's maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, but probably not everybody here. How many people do you think I could name on site? I probably know a lot of you by voice from calling into my radio show, but on site, I don't know any of you. I maybe know a half a dozen people here. Well, let me tell you what would happen in the future. If the Department of Homeland Security gets its way, and if they issue an enhanced driver's license in this state, then every one of you who's carrying a driver's license in your wallet would be identifiable through RFID readers. Now let me see a show of hands. How many of you have a driver's license in your pocket, in your purse, or somewhere within 3 feet of your body right now? All right, that's just about everybody here. I think that was almost a unanimous show of hands. All right, let me tell you what the future would look like in that case. This is probably a group of very well-informed citizens, and I'm sure that there are folks who would like to know everybody who's here. But it would be a big problem if Homeland Security goons showed up right now with guns out and demanded at gunpoint to see your ID. And we'd all say, heck no. And it would be a big story, and in fact we would probably file some constitutional lawsuits about that kind of invasion of our right to free speech and free assembly. But fast forward a couple of years, you don't even have to fast forward if you live in the state of Washington, because they're already issuing these. I could literally take my purse, walk through the crowd, and all I'd have to do would be walk around this circle once, walk up and down there, and just walk right in front of those tents. Take me about, probably 4 minutes to do it. And anybody standing within 30 feet of me with my RFID reader in my bag, I would identify. I'd get your unique ID number. I could then take all of that information, upload it to a database, and say, hey, put these people on a watch list. Don't let them get on an airplane. Do you know they don't have to tell you why you can't get on an airplane anymore? They're not required to tell you. You could just be told, I'm sorry, you're on the no-fly list. Boom. And you don't know it's because you showed up at an event. It gets even worse. Let's say now that I walk through the crowd, and not only do I get your ID cards, but I get your shoes, and your shirt, and your jacket, and your sunglasses, and your little hair barrettes, and everything else, because in the future they plan for all of those to be identifiable too. So now I walk around, and not only do I get all your driver's licenses, but I get a list of things at this event. And then those things become suspect. So now you go home and your wife wants to wear that pair of sunglasses, or your son borrows your baseball cap, and now all of a sudden they're a known associate of yours. And now they don't get on the airplane. Now they can't go about their business. Their constitutionally protected rights get invaded. So these are the technologies that are not hypothetical. This is all real. My co-author and I reviewed 30,000 documents. I'm not exaggerating. We went through, my husband is an IT guy, made a repository for us. And we went through afterwards and we did a little electronic count. And it was over 30,000 documents. These are hard evidence. This is not conspiracy theory. I have evidence and facts, and I do not want you to believe me because I'm saying very extraordinary things. I want you to go and check it out for yourself. If you read the book Spychips, you'll see photographs of these things. If you read recent articles in the Associated Press, you can actually see that reporter Todd Lewin has spoken extensively about this. He's got lots of sources he's identified and interviewed. I recently interviewed Chris Padgett, who is a hacker in Silicon Valley. He's up in San Francisco. And what he did, you can see this on YouTube. You can actually look this up, or you can read about it in various newspaper reports, or you can just listen to me because I have the evidence and I've got videotape of him. He took an RFID reader. This is the device that can pick up all these signals. He mounted it onto his car, and he drove up and down the streets of San Francisco. And within 2 hours, he had netted a half a dozen RFID tags from literally people driving down the street going 30 miles an hour. These were people just walking on the sidewalk, and he read it right through their wallets. So I think that one of the biggest threats we face in this country right now is that the technologies are being developed to make every person in this country completely trackable 24/7. In your home, when you go out, when you drive, everywhere you go, everything you do. Those technologies are real and they exist. Now, Montana being a border state with Canada, you guys are in a unique position because you are going to be called upon to introduce this technology right here. In fact, your governor has already been approached. They've done in other states is they make it a voluntary program where initially they give you the option of getting this special driver's license. And you know what? They hit on a brilliant tactic. Rather than demand that you take it and show up with, goons with guns, they instead give you the privilege of obtaining this by paying an extra $40.